You are listening to Not on the Payroll right here at notonthepayroll.com. You can check us out at Facebook, check us out at YouTube, check us out at Rumble. In case you're wondering where to find us, all you got to do is look for the gorilla with the red headphones. What does that matter? What does that mean? I have no idea. Just thought it was fun. And so there you have it. That's our mascot, the gorilla with the red headphones. So what we have for you tonight, very, very, very interesting. I have sitting with me tonight the Newton County Judge-elect, Ronnie Cochran, and I have also Commissioner-elect of Precinct 4, Leonard Bubba Powell. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys taking time out of y'all's schedule. It has been a crazy, it's when did we interview last, Ronnie?
It was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago. Okay, so I was telling Mr. Powell here that I didn't know if I had been filleted or deep fried or what, but I knew I was eaten alive on a few occasions over the last 2 weeks. But one of the cool parts is, from what we've been able to tell on our end, over 1,500 people's currently watched the video. There has been a lot of comments. Some of them I have received through text messages. So some of you out there commenting and talking noise, I do get text messages. And screenshots work. Let me just say that much. Screenshots work, all right? But one of the interesting parts that I found, and when I was looking back through the analytics of the show, right at 80% of the viewers were female. 80% of the viewers were female. 20% were male. And it looks like we've hit a 55 plus demographic with that show specifically. So I don't know how we tweak some of these fellas into watching some of what's going on, but I'm kind of interested to see how tonight does, because both of you guys are elect. Y'all are in waiting, and you're kind of watching what's going on.
Yes.
And it's some might say it's a little bit off the rails as far as the spending goes. But once again, welcome to the show, and thank you guys for taking time out of y'all's schedule to just maybe bring some clarity. There were some things that we touched on. There were some things that we touched on 2 weeks ago that you wanted to bring some clarity on and that type of deal, and we'll dig into that some.
Okay.
But really, over the last 2 weeks, what have you seen far as changes or maybe actions that have been taken or things that's going on? What are you seeing?
Well, I've seen more of the people getting involved.
Okay.
A lot of the citizens of Newton County are basically pissed off about what's going on.
Okay.
And they're ready to stand up and take action, whatever it takes to get the problem solved.
Okay.
So
you're seeing a lot more community involvement.
yes.
Okay.
The people just didn't have
The information.
did not know what was going on.
So I had heard through the grapevine, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a change with the IT gentleman.
Yes.
Okay.
It's my understanding that he has changed his contract to where it doesn't automatically renew.
Okay.
And, come January, I will be creating an IT position comparable to surrounding counties, and, IT plus, small travel allowance because IT person will be traveling North South County.
Sure.
And cell phone allowance because they're on call.
Yeah.
And it will be comparable to, say, Jasper,
Yeah.
Tyler, whatever, the surrounding counties.
So we were correct in what we were talking about as far as the 180-something thousand per year.
I think it was 168.
It was 168? Oh,
but
there goes my
that was
dyslexia.
contract, but then it was my understanding that he was being paid overtime too.
Paid overtime. Okay. So something's changed. So now basically you're saying that he's changed his contract.
Yes.
Okay. When was that voted on?
It's my understanding it wasn't voted on. I was just told that he has changed his contract to where it doesn't automatically renew, and his contract will be ending in December.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Any contract I've ever been around, which, you know, I mean, I'm not a contract wizard, but I mean, if you're going to make a contract change, there's multiple parties that's got to be involved, right? Anyway, if you're out there,
I'm not sure. It may should have been voted on by the court. So
to accept it.
yes,
Because if a change happens like that, that's a fundamental change to a contract. It's got to be accepted by the contract. What would you call that? By the it's not the contract.
I would call it receiving party.
The receiving party.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, interesting. So we are managing to at least light a fire under some folks on some level, and I don't know if that was necessarily the full intent, but at least it's like Scripture says, be true, be sure the truth will find you out, right?
Yes.
Or something like that. One of those deals. So let's go back right fast and let's just touch on a couple of things you wanted to bring to clarity from our last talk.
Okay, on our last talk, I talked about Judge Paul Price, 4-year term, but Mr. Price only had 2 years. He was elected to fulfill the unexpired term of Ronnie Boyette after he was tragically killed.
Okay.
So he only had 2 years in office.
Okay.
So then that's what I wanted to clear up. And, he was unaware, and he said he's sure some of the previous judges were unaware that, the grant money that was not used was, being put into the general funds.
Okay.
So they were.
So when they came in, they just assumed that money was just
Yes.
part of the mix, right?
Yes.
Instead of, obviously, whenever you're looking at the accounting side of things, maybe that could have been outlined there a
Yes.
little bit, but they kind of inherited the situation as a whole.
Yes.
Okay. So with,
But he was kind of prudent with it. He didn't spend it all.
yeah. No, that's good. That's a good thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things, we talk about the grant money being put in the general fund instead of being kept separately.
Right.
If you go back and talk to some of the folks that was here before, they said that in the past it was kept separately. So whether it was kept separately, whether it was commingled, at what point it was, when TDM come in and did their audit of the 2011 through 16, is that correct?
Yes.
They said, hey, you owe us $800,000. So when you go to talking about, the county's financial condition, if you go back and look over the year at the year ending, every year Newton County closes out their books, and they have a third party comes in and does an audit. If you go back and you look at those books, it'll give you how much they ended with, and from 11 all the way up through 16, 17, it was 2.3, 2.5, 2.6, 2.3. So it was always around 2.5 million. So if you say, well, there was some TDM money in there, it shouldn't have been in there. Okay. So it should have been 1.7, 1.9, 1.8. It wasn't like the county was broke and all of that money in the general fund was TDM's money. So I just don't want the misconception to be that, hey, we're broke today because we had TDM money or grant money in the general fund. We may have had money in there that shouldn't or didn't belong in there.
Okay.
But it's not why we are deplete and flat today.
Okay, so just for clarity's sake, then, because in our last talk, there was at least from my end of the perspective, I had communicated or had talked about the fact that county government could have been kicking this can down the road, and what you're saying is that's not the case. So meaning that the county's funds as a whole, the county hasn't been limping along and using TDM money all these last decade.
Exactly. So let's go back and look at it, and let's just say from the very onslaught of 2011, we had 800,000 in there that didn't belong in there.
Okay. Yeah.
More than likely, we didn't. Right. More than likely, that built up over a period of time, and you're going to find that out when you do your forensic audit. But so let's just say there was 800,000 in there that belonged in TDM's pocket, not ours.
Yeah.
We still had 1.7 million dollars in our bank.
Sure.
So we were financially sound through those years.
So that's really kind of putting a little bit more of the spotlight on current administration, and maybe even just prior, right?
So if you looked at the information that was put out during the runoff campaign, it clearly shows the year-end statings in the books in Newton County's financial closing, third-party audits. It has a number. Anyone can go look at it. You go to the auditor's office, it's right there. They'll pull it off the shelf and you tell them, I want to see it. It says year-end general fund closing balance.
Yeah.
And it shows those numbers to be 2.3 to 2.7.
And they can even pull it off the website, county's website, under the auditor's office.
Okay.
And, along in that time, when Judge Price left, Newton County had 2.5 million, basically investment CDs.
Okay.
And those funds are down to a little over around 2.5 million. And today they're a little over 700,000. Around 700,000.
And there's no accounting for where that's spent that you've
I'm
been able to see?
That I've been able to see. I'm sure there is.
Why would they not allow a judge elect to see where those monies have been spent? Because
for one reason I haven't asked.
Okay.
We have put in some freedom of information requests.
How long is it taking for those to get worked out for you? Because from what I hear, 6 months to a year.
Before it was taking a pretty good while. They were, a lot of the information was sent to the Attorney General's office for their recommendation, and it was sent back.
Which is insane because
yes. Sometimes it would take months to get the information.
Yeah.
But it has sped up quite a bit now.
So maybe anybody can do a freedom of information.
Anybody can do a freedom of information request, and you got to be careful how you word it.
Yeah.
Or you can be asking for.
You could be sidestepping your whole point.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can ask for, if you word it broadly, you can be asking for 10,000 documents.
Yeah.
And you get a document dump that you would never be able to read through.
Yeah.
So, just be specific. I couldn't say that word. Be specific on what you're asking for.
Yeah.
And, put your freedom of information request, and you should get it.
Okay. Very cool. There has been talk of a forensics investigation.
Yes. TDM has audited the grants up to 2016.
Okay.
And what I would like to do is, hire a forensic auditing team to come in and do from there to present. To where, when I take office, I know exactly what I've got. I know exactly where we stand and, how to proceed forward from there.
What if it comes back and it shows that solid waste has been being utilized in such a way to filter monies in certain directions? How do we proceed at that point?
Well, hopefully, from what I understand, they've defunded solid waste.
Right.
I've heard they have a plan. I'm not sure who's taking over solid waste, but I would like to keep that in the county as far as for the county residents. If someone takes over, there's a possibility that the dumps wouldn't stay open.
Right.
And every county back road will be filled with garbage in Newton County, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
There's a couple of options we're looking at to fund the solid waste.
Okay.
But as far as your question on we just have to proceed, whatever the law allows and whatever, we can get done on it.
All right. We're gonna come back to that here in a few minutes because as well as I do, whenever we were sitting down the first time and I circled solid waste and didn't show anybody except you.
Yes.
That was the first thing. That was the first thing.
And that's the biggest issue in Newton County right now.
Well, sure.
Other than the money. The lack of money.
Other than where's the money?
That's the biggest issue for the people.
Yeah.
Is solid waste. It may not affect somebody that lives in the city because they have garbage service.
Well, it doesn't yet because that garbage service is going to the local deal, and then they've got to get it out somewhere from there, right?
Yeah. Well, the city has its own garbage service, so it may not affect the city residents, but within a year or two, everywhere you go in Newton County is going to be dumps. On the side of the roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your hunting clubs.
Right.
So, we have to have a plan to take care of that waste.
So right now you guys are you're moving toward those conversations.
Yes.
Okay. Good deal.
So if I could touch on solid waste just a moment, just to add to what Judge-elect Cochran's saying, it's so sensitive, it's so serious. It's a better word that one of the commissioners that was just elected in Orange actually reached out to me because we touch there in precincts, Orange County, Newton County, and Orange County is concerned. Orange County is concerned that Newton County's lack of a plan is going to result in county-wide dumping in Orange County by our residents.
Right.
And it's one of those things to where currently we have these dump sites. We don't have any verification of residents. So I know in the south end of the county, we are all aware that we have people from outside of precinct 4 is probably the best way to say it.
Okay.
Dumping in those sites.
Right.
So if we go with Judge-elect Ronnie Cochran's plan, the first thing we're going to do is tighten and stricken that up to where we know what we've got in Newton County. We're going to, we'll get a handle on it. It's going to be our residents dumping, and then we can formulate a plan on how can we support this and fund it long term.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It makes complete sense.
Eventually we may have to charge for the service.
Right.
And I'm thinking a nominal charge, $10 a month. $120 a year to get rid of your household garbage, which, that would help pay for the garbage service, help pay for the, people working the compactors,
just help subsidize the whole process.
Subsidize the whole process for the county.
If you,
and it may not, like I say, that will not be, that's probably what we'll end up doing in the long run.
I got you.
If you think about the situation we're in right now, we're in a burn ban scenario. So if all of a sudden residents in Newton County, in the outlying areas, didn't have a place to dump their garbage, a lot of them can't afford a sanitation department to pick it up.
Right.
So they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to burn their garbage.
Yeah.
We are supported by a great group of volunteers countywide in the fire departments.
Right.
I know that in the south end of the county, one of those gentlemen's mother contacted me, said, "My God, can you imagine all the wildfires and forest fires, and we're going to be burning down every structure in the south end of the county if we don't have a dump to put our garbage because everybody's going to be dumping." That hasn't even been talked about countywide, but the mother of that firefighter said, "Hey," she called me, she said, "Hey, you guys got to get a handle on this or we're going to burn our county down." That's a real concern.
That's a real concern. Absolutely. That's a real concern. So, with all the talk of financial problems, and that being a very obvious thing here in Newton County, how is the judge and the commissioner's court? How have they how have they responded? I mean, because word has it that they're just continuing to spend money.
That's the appearance. We have the ARPA funds, which is the COVID money, and we're paying payroll with ARPA funds, paying the county bills, which, from light bills to everything used in the ARPA funds. It's close to $500,000.
I think approximately 540 is what you and I figured up before the meeting. Yeah,
$540,000 a month is what they're spending of it, before. And, that money is not being used for what it was originally intended for by the government. So our biggest fear is
we got to pay it all back.
We got to pay it back. That's our biggest fear.
$540,000 a month.
Yes,
a month.
A month. That's what it costs to pay the salary and the bills for Newton County.
So the idea of how in the fourth year of a president, if he's been beat in the election, it's kind of a lame duck type of period. You don't see that happening here with.
No, I don't see that happening.
And
it's like they're accelerating the spending, trying to basically leave us as little as possible. Some of the equipment, vehicles, hey, let's sell them.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter that, the residents of Newton County could get a use or benefit out of these. They're just the heck with the people. Let's do what we want to do.
Just spend the money.
Yes.
So over in Precinct 4, what are you seeing? Because, you know, I don't know if this is common knowledge, but, you know, it seems like, is it Mr. Thompson?
Gene Thompson.
Gene Thompson? It seems like most of his family members got paved roads down to their houses and stuff like that. And my deal is this: I mean, hey, yeah, I really can't throw stones at where people decide to buy houses. Maybe there was paving those before they bought their houses, but and that's not what I'm hearing. And so I guess my question is, what are you seeing down in Precinct 4 for our spending is going?
So I think, you know, I think. So every year, each commissioner has a budget. They have a plan, right?
Right.
So there's cash accounts out there, and it's not really wise for any of the commissioners and or the judge to flatten that account,
Okay.
because you may get to December and all of a sudden have an unplanned expense.
Sure.
So
Freeze or anything.
You know,
Correct.
high storm. There's actually laws against that.
So,
If it was being upheld.
So there are. So what I'm seeing is, you know, after the election, Precinct 4 Commissioner has decided to asphalt 5 roads that weren't budgeted.
Asphalt 5 roads.
Yeah. And so the total cost of those 5 roads is approximately $780,000. 2 of them have already been done, and there's 3 more that's actually on the agenda for approval tomorrow.
Tomorrow in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't there a commissioners court meeting today?
Yes.
Today. So this is a special session tomorrow to get these.
We're having seems like a couple a week. You know,
You got to keep it money going. gotta get it spent.
from 1 a month to a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And so my concern is,
Lord Jesus.
is currently, in talking with, you know, with people that are in government in Newton County, currently in Precinct 4 and the Commissioner Special, there's around $444,000. And
Okay, hold up. Back up and say that one more time.
so there's approximately $444,000 in what they call the Commissioner Special Fund. And these roads that are on the agenda tomorrow, when they were first bid out a few months ago, the bids weren't approved, so they got to go back through the process. That's what they're doing now. When they were first bid out, the bids come back for all 3 of them to total up around $580,000. So it appears that you know, there is a desire to basically deplete the savings of Precinct 4. Now, you know, the downside of that, and I'm glad you asked, because it's important for the people in Precinct 4 to know this, I think. Mm-hmm. The downside of that is every commissioner in Newton County in 2023 will receive approximately $115,000 less than they did in 2022. Just part of the budgeting cycle. And that's countywide. So you start off with that, but then when you go into office and your savings have been depleted for unbudgeted work, because, you know, if it was a priority, it would have been budgeted, right? So it wasn't a priority, so let's go ahead and do it while we can, right? But when you go in and there's no savings account there, the commissioners will get approximately, by the budget, $207,000 in their commissioner special next year, and $285,000 in their road and bridge fund. So, you know, I mean, to put it into perspective, I just put a parking lot in at one business, and I didn't even get gravel on it, and I spent $45,000.
Yeah.
$285,000 for a precinct countywide for a year is very little money.
Yeah.
So you got that $285 that you're going to try to buy and keep your county or your precinct running, you know, and then you got
your
200
road materials, your culverts, your fuel, you know, everything that goes along with keeping everything.
Yeah.
You know, then you got your roads, you got a grade for.
And then mechanical failures, you know,
Yes.
whatever it may be. But then when you say, well, okay, well, why are you so concerned with that? Well, then, like right now, Precinct 4 has 6 full-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been paying those out of the road and bridge fund. Well, that is going to change in 2023 and going forward. We're going to use the road and bridge fund. We're going to put that money back into the road and bridges.
Okay.
And what's critical is if we go into office in January and there is no savings account, You know,
That's a
there's got to be a
problem.
reduction, right? So we can't go in and just say we're going to spend every dime we got, you know, and at the end of the year have zero money in the account.
Right.
So it really cripples the incoming administration. But not only that, that's not the big part. Okay, I'm a big boy and I can handle that. But what it does is the residents of Precinct 4 are going to suffer because, you know, when we get out there, we say, hey, we want to do these things toward drainage and we want to get these roads in better shape, and there's no money. You know, they're going to look at me and say, where'd all the money go?
Yeah. So okay. So let me just ask this: what are the two roads? Can you mention or name the two roads that have already been done?
So one of them is, I think one of them is 4154. It's River Oaks Road.
Okay.
It's in an area that is prone to flooding. And let me just say this. You know, hey, listen, I'm happy for those folks that live down there. They've got a paved road.
Yeah.
And you know, kudos to those folks. I'm happy for them. I don't begrudge them, and they're excited about it, and they should be, right? The concern I have is those roads are going to flood.
Yeah.
And they're a sandy base, and not much was done to that.
Good luck.
So what's going to happen in the years to come is we're going to go from having a nice asphalt road to a road that's got the bottom washed out from underneath it, and no money to go in there and fix that road.
Okay. So another question I would have, and this is just from me as I guess a newbie in the business world. Okay. Are we using all the same asphalt contractor?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it sounds like somebody's getting paid like a duck, in my opinion. That's just me. Hey, take it like you take it. But at the end of the day, if this is going out for bid and you've got the same contractor who's getting these projects, getting these asphalt projects, somebody needs to be looking at somebody's accounts. I'm gonna let that sit there just for a second. Somebody needs to look at somebody's accounts, bank accounts, friends, because how this whole construction business goes, and it makes complete sense why he's sitting here, got the foot on the throttle. He's got 3 more. You said 5 total, right?
Correct.
So 3 more. And I don't know, Mr.
Let me make sure I speak correctly and factually. So 2 were asphalt. And 4154 was asphalted part of the way.
Okay.
Not all the way, part of the way.
At least up to the family member's house or whatever?
Part of the way.
Okay.
So
You're laughing.
So tomorrow there are 3 more roads on the agenda.
Okay.
And one of those roads is what we've called the Sandpit Road. And it's
Sandpit Road.
It's Sandpit Road. So there was an Economic Development Commission come in and worked with one of our businesses, Specialty Sands, and they did a project for economic development, and they paid and put a really good road in. It goes all the way past the waste collection site. Right. It's a great road, and it was good for the county because it was part of Texas, and the plant worked together on that. And it didn't cost the county anything, but now all of a sudden we're gonna continue that another 7,750 foot and come out to a 87. And the reality of it is there are 4 residents on that road. 4. And they live within approximately 300 foot of that blacktop, where that blacktop ends. But instead of just saying, hey, we're going to go from the blacktop to where their county road takes off, we're just going to go from 87 all the way through. It's 7,700 foot, and then another road in the Wright settlement area. You know, it's 10,000 foot of road, and again, very few people. And listen, this is my concern.
Right.
You know, it's not about sliding the people. It's not about, those people, there's not many people that live there. We don't know.
Right.
It's about, look, that is a need.
Sure.
But we've got people that can't get out of their driveways when we have rain events.
Right.
Sunset Acres is a drainage issue. You know, Old Champion has a drainage issue. Giss has a drainage issue. There's a swell in Hartburg Road down there that if you go over in a motorcycle, you're going to be in airborne. Okay. We've got other issues that we need to be focused on. But, you know, let's go back to your question.
Okay.
Your question was about spending.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say that we should stay within the budget.
Right.
If it was important, we should have budgeted, right?
Yes.
And from all accounts, I can't see the budget. We have no communication, but all the council and talking with county officials in Newton County, none of this work was budgeted. These were all add-on jobs
This year. Okay.
after the election.
Okay. So I had a mentor of mine tell me one time. He looked at me with these puppy dog eyes, put his hand up on my shoulder, and he said, "Bless your heart." And I said, "Oh man." I said, "What are you saying that for?" He said, "Sit down. You're not going to take this real good." I'm like, "All right." So I sat down. He said, you still live in a world, in a naive perception world, to where you believe that if a road is put in, it is done so to help people get from point A to point B. And I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "No." He said, "Have you ever driven up 87? Have you ever driven up 96? He said, "Have you ever driven up 69? Those roads ebb and flow with the powers that be in those areas who had those properties to sell. Why isn't it just a straight shot up 87 to Toledo Bend?" He said, "Because they had to go to these homeowners." And then I got in the oil field after that, learned a lot about homeowners and landowners and this type of deal. I would challenge everybody out there. What was the name you said? Sandpit Road?
Sandpit Road.
Sandpit
It's
Road.
County Road 4123.
4123. I challenge anybody, go over to the appraisal district's website and go look and see who's got property on that road and why it would be the necessity of the county to blacktop that road this year when we're already in a bind and kind of choking out toward the end of this year. I mean, you won't even have, like you said, all your savings will be gone in precinct 4. Practically.
Will be.
Yeah. You'll be a negative.
You know, a perfect example of that, Interstate 10. Interstate 10 was never scheduled to go to Beaumont, come on around through Owen. Interstate 10 was supposed to travel 73 to Port Arthur, go across, but the money in Beaumont
Yeah.
and the
Some Humphrey money or somebody
the Parisis, and I shouldn't say anything, but this was right back then.
old school folks.
Old school
Cutting
folks,
checks. I get
cutting checks, and you had Sam Rayburn and Jack. Well, it was Sam Rayburn back then that had to sway in the Congress to, we're going to put this road through Beaumont.
Yeah.
Instead of the straight shot through 73 to Port Arthur.
And the old story on Jack Brooks, he didn't have money to get there on the bus and came back a millionaire.
Yes.
When he went to Congress.
But this was.
And so to me, I'm sitting here going, I'm thinking, oh, listen, hey, there's some people out here, and I'm just going to throw this out here. I would like to see what both of y'all's response is. There's some people out here who's sitting here going, these guys have no provable data. These guys have their own agendas. These guys, talking about both of y'all, are going to come in here and y'all are going to do the same thing. You're going to figure out how to polish your own shoes, your own pavement and driveways and stuff like that. Y'all are going to do the same thing that everybody else in Newton County's been doing for decades, because Newton County is known for one word. What is it, ladies and gentlemen? Corruption.
Well, I will say this. There's a chance 10, 15 years I won't be here.
Okay.
My kids and my grandkids will.
Okay.
So I'm doing this for my kids and my grandkids and future generations.
Okay.
It's not about me. I've been there, done that. I've made enough money to live off of the rest of my life.
Right.
But my kids and the grandkids, they still have a long way to go.
So really, I can hear somebody saying it right now in the back of my ear. They're saying, we're going to be watching that appraisal district deal whenever y'all start blacktopping roads coming in the future. So what's your take on that, Mr. Powell?
So I think that it's not unfair for people to have that concern.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is. I think people should be cautious of that. I mean, that's what we're encouraging people to be. But let me tell you my solution to that.
Okay.
And I said this during my campaign, and I'm going to hold true to it. The Justice of the Peace in Precinct 4 and I are very close, and we are servants of the people. I believe that her heart is right, and we have we had the best of intentions in place. But the way that I plan to show and to build confidence and trust in the voters is we've already built a Facebook page. We're just not going to go live with it until January.
Right.
But we are going to communicate. You're going to see my weekly work schedule in Precinct 4. You're going to know how much money Precinct 4 gets at the beginning of the year. You're going to know where that money was spent in the year. You're not going to have to go look for that.
Right.
I'm going to put it out there for you. We're going to have quarterly meetings
Sure.
in Precinct 4.
Yep.
Our judge is going to be there. We're going to invite the sheriff. We're going to invite the DA. And we're going to invite other elected officials.
Right.
Tax assessor collector for Newton County lives down in Precinct 4. She will be there for sure. But we're going to have a transparent Precinct 4 government. And I know this gentleman's going to have
Transparent government, you know, the people are going to know, and when they can, they're going to have a voice in what's happening.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you were wanting to make clear in our last meeting was that you're inheriting a
Yes.
lot.
You know, I didn't want to come into office, you know, and we're going to have to trim close to $1 million off the budget.
What does that look like percentage wise, far as employees, county employees? Because I mean, and maybe that's a difficult question.
That is, you know, there will have to be some cuts. I do not want to do it, but you know, like county road around in September, we didn't have money to make payroll for the rest of this year. If it wasn't for the ARPA money, the county would not be making payroll or paying its bills at all. That's how broke they were. So this money will be spent probably by the end of the year before I take office, because they're going through it as quick as they can.
It's what they call trending that way.
Yeah, well, it's trending that way, yes.
Right. Okay.
So
There's no alternative at this point. There's no other money to pay
come
bills.
September of next year, you know, if we do not cut, there will be nobody in Newton County getting paid. No, you know, no services. There won't be the money to do it. So we have to trim at the start to be able to continue yearly services for Newton County. And that's I hate that I have to come in and do that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a necessity to keep Newton County running. But you know, like the budget was spending $1.2 million over what actual tax revenue taken in. So to balance the budget, they defunded the solid waste, which was $400,000. They defunded, you know, I told you, emergency management, floodplain management, got rid of a couple of jobs, grants, you know.
Yeah.
Hazard mitigation plan, you know, that was $50,000 that, you know, had to be in the budget last couple of years, but all of a sudden it's out this year. And they took some money out of the prison fund, you know, from where they've sold some surplus equipment, and added that to it. All right, we got a balanced budget. So a majority of this is going to have to be added back next year. And it's going to be hard to fund the county without having to trim some people.
So you mentioned the floodplain administrator.
Yes.
So we get $25,000 a year from the SRA, Sabine River Authority, to fund that job and the things that go along with that job.
Okay.
So what the judge did in the budget was he rolled that $25,000 into revenue and did away with the job. So yeah, here we'll take your SRA money, but that position we're just doing away with it.
Okay. So once again, the accusation of misappropriation of funds is not a light one.
And we haven't made that here tonight.
No.
Well, I mean, it seems to be. I mean, it just
We haven't
seems-
used those words, correct?
Well, you haven't used those words, but here's the truth. If my wife gives me money and tells me to go down there to Brookshire's and go buy some meat and some cheese and the whole 9 yards, and I come back with candy bars and the whole 9 yards and that type of deal, that's different than going out and buying a prostitute with it or something along those lines. If there's obvious What I'm saying is, there's an obvious, not that you can get a prostitute for the amount you're going to go buy a hamburger for, but my point is, there is an obvious misdirection with funding.
Yes.
My question is, where is the accountability mechanism in county government? Because I'm asking this because I'm just a hillbilly out here like everybody else is.
Well,
what is that accountability measure?
You have the accountability with the treasurer. You have your checks and balance. You got the treasurer's office, and you have the auditor's office. So that should be the checks and balances.
So the treasurer's cutting the checks. The auditor's making sure the monies have been spent appropriately. Is that how that works?
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily.
Okay.
So just remember, the commissioner's court and the judge decide how the money is
Will be spent. Correct.
The auditor and the treasurer have no power to override that unless they know that it's illegal.
Okay.
So to say that the county treasurer or the auditor can say, even to Ronnie Cochran when he gets in office, no, Ronnie, I don't think you should buy a new Corvette with that money. I'm just not going to give you the money. They don't have that authority.
Okay.
The judge and the court run the county.
Right.
Now, if it is a illegal activity, they have the authority to say, I'm not signing that check.
I guess my question would be then, at what point is, and because I'm using it, misappropriation of funds, a legal liability to the treasurer and the auditor in the process? I mean, could they just plead ignorance and just say, hey, I didn't know? And whenever you've got the Sabine River Authority down here cutting a check, and it says down here in the memo that we're going to be using it on our floodplains person, and then now we're turning it into revenue. That's complete and utter lie. In my books. I mean, because I know this. I got Edgar Cocker Cross down there in Beaumont, and they do my taxes. That's a lot of them. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a lot of the IRS, and there's no way I can get around that. And so
let's talk a little bit about that. So the auditor, I'll just speak for myself. So I have a lot of questions, right? And, I started out, I went to the treasurer to begin with. I've been to the grant administrator.
Yeah.
I went to the county attorney and I went to the auditor. And so far I found the auditor to be a resource of information.
Okay.
And a lot of that is due to the fact that she's new to county government.
Yeah.
And when you go to her, if you have a question she don't know the answer to, she says, I don't know the answer to that. Let's get someone on the phone. And she calls the Texas Association of Counties, TAC, legal, and gets their opinion. Or she'll call a auditor somewhere else and get an opinion and shows you what the law says.
Okay. So
let's go back to this SRA. So when you say where's the treasurer and the auditor and all those folks liable for that? Now, I don't know that there's any law that says, they broke the law and they took that $25,000 and put it in the budget and said, we don't have a floodplain administrator, or we're doing away with that position. What they have done is the auditor has said, hey, Judge-elect Cochran, I'm sorry, there's $25,000 in your budget for the floodplain administrator. You need to get a floodplain administrator or send that money back. So that money hasn't been spent. That's in 2022. So I think she's doing her due diligence in educating him, me, and others on where she sees quote unquote issues. She's done a great job of that. And just remember,
she has done a great job.
And that's the auditor?
Yes.
That's the auditor.
Okay.
Just remember, when she got here, she asked for an audit, an outside forensic audit, not a forensic, a third party audit to get the books in check.
Yeah.
Craig Mixon sent a letter stating, he wanted to get that audit. I seen that email. Newton County said, we don't have the money for that.
But they got the money to pave a bunch of folks' roads down in Precinct 4 before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if we're all, because to me, it looks like a big gumbo. It looks like a big, I love gumbo, okay? But it looks like a gumbo. It's like, hey, listen, here's the deal. Let's go ahead and flush out all this money over here in Precinct 4 and get these paved roads, or get these roads corrected, maybe upgraded. We'll call it an upgrade on roads, right? As opposed to, it's just like with the stupid building they're wanting to build out at the airport. Who owns that property? Ladies and gentlemen, go to your appraisal district website. who owns the property that's going to be sold to the county. There's a fox in the hen house somewhere here. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Somebody's getting paid 7 ways to Sunday. I ain't got a whole lot of money, but I'll take every bit of it that I got and put on it. Somebody's getting paid, and then we've got $13 billion or $1 million, $13 million with an M dollar grant.
Well, they haven't got it yet. It hadn't been finalized, but from everything,
It's looking
it's
looking that way.
looking like they got it.
The court voted to accept it.
Yes.
They haven't gotten it, but they did vote to accept it. Now, what the audience needs to remember is that the court is made up of 5 individuals.
Sure.
It only takes 3 to move in one direction.
Right.
So when we say the judge and the court have done these things, I've not seen anything go against the judge's wishes. So everything that they've done, the judge has been behind or supportive or the narrator of that move. But there are commissioners on that court that have not voted for all of those things.
Yes.
So we can't sit here tonight, and I don't want the audience thinking that every time they voted one way. Now, before all these things come to light, there was a tendency to go all in. But the court has been educated,
Right.
and I'll say most of that's due to the new county auditor bringing things to light.
Okay.
And they've been educated, and they are starting to ask the $13 million grant. One of the commissioners said to the grants administrator, I was in the meeting, what's the match on this? You remember that?
Yeah, because that matters.
And that was unknown. That was unknown.
Well, it was either unknown or unanswered. So we don't. If it's $13 million, if it's 10%, that's $1.3 million.
Yeah.
No. I don't know.
Well, y'all can't come up with 10%.
I know where they gonna come up with the 1.3, but the county owns 70 acres at the old prison site.
Yeah.
Why are we buying 25 acres? And it's gonna cost an extra $1 million. Put it at the airport. They say, well, it's at the airport. Supplies can come in. Well, and it's basically a safe room. But like I want to reiterate what I said. We don't need to house refugees. The county does not have the infrastructure or the money to provide what they need.
Yeah.
We don't have law enforcement. We have great law enforcement, but you put your law enforcement out there, they're not patrolling the county.
Sure.
It
provides all kind of dilemmas.
And there will be federal help coming, but the county has to provide before the federal aid.
Yeah, we're the boots on the ground out here, actually getting food to the people.
You have to have people in to constantly take care of and that's something that Newton County cannot afford at this time.
Yeah.
We cannot be a refugee, basically a safe house for, and for the, coastal community.
Yeah.
We need to be a pass-through county. Hey, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. We can hand
get
them
as
food.
far away
We
from
can hand
this-
them some food and water on the side of 87 headed north.
Get as far away from Newton County as you can, because if we have a major storm hit, everything's closed off. We need them further up.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they're talking about, widening Airport Road, putting new water and sewer and electricity to the site. That adds $1 million to it. So we've got 70 acres. If they're going to build it,
out there.
Build it where we have the land.
Yeah.
Where we don't have to increase the road size. Where you got water and sewer that's, pretty close. But we had a $12 million bond for a jail. They was pushing it for a jail.
Yeah.
All the top of the jail went away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the people voted on it, right?
Yes.
People voted on it, didn't want it.
They didn't want the increase in taxes.
They didn't want the increase in taxes.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there and you're liking what you are hearing as far as you're appreciating this type of a show, we ask you to go over to YouTube and subscribe, or go over to Rumble and subscribe. Let's touch just for a moment on because one of the big, I don't know how you Yeah, the scripture says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, right? So the biggest hope that's come to Newton County has been in the form of a news story about the biodiesel plant coming to the south part of the county. Okay? Have we heard anything else about the biodiesel plant and what the objectives are, or what the what we're looking at this point? Where are we at on the list here?
I'm not 100% sure. I did receive a call from Nick Andrews, which he's I think the CEO of USA Bioenergy.
Okay.
And they were still working on the financing. He said they were working on engineering, but if they're
Still very preliminary.
Yes, if they're going to make the 20, he's still talking 2026, which there's a long way to go to make it to build a plant and have it operation. But if the government subsidies go away, that would be a big problem. It takes, for 1 gallon of fuel, it takes 1 ton of wood chips. So, I'm sorry, for 61 gallons of fuel. Yeah. 1 ton of wood chips provides 61 gallons of jet fuel or naphtha. So, and then they're planning on building a cogen to provide power, and it wood fired. So,
between now and 2026, we got a whole new presidential election.
Yes.
High probability we won't be going back Democrat.
Yes.
Unless they, resurrect.
If a lot of the government subsidies go away, I just worry about that.
Yeah.
Because there was billions of dollars put in for renewable fuels.
Sure.
And
how much did the county spend at this point?
I think
kind of foster that thing, or kind of date that idea.
I know we spent like $225, and then they've been paying $2,500 a month to lease the mill site.
Yeah.
From Ben Bruce to hold it for USA Biofuels.
Gotcha. Okay. So really no new updates.
Really no new updates.
Okay.
One of the things that we hoped for on the south end of the county, there was some excitement around a new housing addition coming in. I'm not sure if you were aware of that, but it was a high-end housing addition, and they were really excited about it. I won't mention the group's name that was going to do it, but it was a foundation out of Orange, and they were going to do it. Well, they called Ronnie and myself down to the office, and they said, it's been some time back, several weeks or if not months, that we've hit a roadblock here. The projection on these costs are much higher than what we predicted. So what we've done is we've went in and we've changed this model, and we're going back, and they took us in and showed us the plans. They spent, I forget how many hundreds of thousands of dollars on plans and engineering and these things. It was very serious.
And they already spent over $350,000.
Something like that, yeah. And
just on engineering.
And so they actually come to my store and said, hey, we want to visit. And I said, well, they said no. And they come down and visited and said, at this point, we're not going to go forward with the project. And the reason was simply economics. One of the things that was said was just yesterday, President Biden made the decision to eliminate up to $10,000 in student debt, right? Mm-hmm. He said, our economists say that that's going to impact inflation by 2 points. Yeah. And, so that was an economic decision not to go forward with that. And at this time, not to say that something won't happen in the future, because down further south, there's a $12 billion facility being built that's just it's coming to Newton County. It's just a matter of, you're going to see growth going northward.
Sure.
So it's going to be a good.
Plus construction costs right now, construction materials. I know lumber has kind of tipped over, but for the most part, man, I mean, you still have some supply chain issues. You still have some funding, not funding, but
their biggest deal is
issues.
To do it right, put the streets in, the water, sewer, they were looking at spending $4.5 million.
Yeah.
And then that put the price of the lots, upwards of $900,000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they were just worried about spending that amount of money and then not being able to sell the lots.
Not being able to capitalize on it, yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, Kim, before we get completely away from, you talked about, I want to go all the way back to, reduction, staffing, So, there's really, when you get right down to it, when you go to asking an incumbent or an incoming judge, you got a deficit, what are you going to do to get the money where you need it to be? I think it's important that we say this is, there's only two ways to get us in a sound financial condition.
Yeah.
One is reduce costs.
Sure.
Staffing is part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's other things.
There's other things we're planning on. We will look at everything really hard before we, cut personnel.
Right.
But the other avenue to get into a sound financial condition is to jack taxes up.
Yeah.
That's it. Newton County is not in a position to have a big tax increase.
Yeah.
We are a poverty county. People are doing the best they can. Everyone knows that appraisals went up. That drove taxes up. The court adopted a no new revenue tax rate, which actually the tax rate dropped because appraisals went up. So that's why we are getting $115,000 less at the commissioner's level.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure that the general public understands that, some of these cuts, when you go to saying, oh my God, I hate to see people lose their jobs. Everyone goes to hate, especially if you're part of the group that's got to sit across the desk and go, we're not going to be able to employ you next year, and here's why.
Yeah.
That's a very sickening feeling, but the option of that is not good.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're spending 70 to 84% of your general fund to fund employees' pay and benefits,
Yeah.
and you're leaving 16% of that general fund for the judge to work with to run the county, that's just not a good place to be. So
Yeah, it's crazy. Because I'm sitting here going, because as we've been having this conversation, I've just kind of been meditating on it on some level while driving or whatever the case is, because this is not, I'm not directly responsible for trying to fix the issue, but I'm sitting here going, okay, how does this thing get fixed, man? And I mean, there's
gotta cut costs.
There's no wizard's wand to just, it's going to be painful for a bit.
Yes.
But after it's painful, then we can potentially find some sound. I've always heard it said, having a sound business requires having sound management. Having sound management requires having sound ownership. Right?
right.
And they've always said that you can't change the man.
Well, as part of the sheriff department is one of the biggest budgets in the county.
Yeah.
That's emergency services is imperative. We keep it, at the level or greater. And if we could get minimum 60-bed jail,
Yeah.
that would bring in to the county over $400,000. That would eliminate the money going to the other counties to house our inmates.
Yeah.
And, we could actually make the sheriff department could make money to supplement its budget, right there in the new jail.
All 70 acres.
And that's something we're looking at, but they're hell bent on stripping it to where it can't be used.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
Kind of parting it out at this point.
hopefully we can have something left to work with.
Is there any final statements that you like to say, Mr. Powell?
Well, yeah. So tonight we've talked about a lot of negatives, right?
Sure.
And I just attended a political forum around Precinct 2, and it was what are we going to do going forward? And so we talked a little bit about tax base and what can we do for Newton County. So I've listened to Judge-elect Ronnie Cochran quite a bit, and I'm confident. I trust his leadership. I have been pleasantly surprised at some of the things that he has on his agenda. Although we've talked about we've got to get into physical sounds, he's got plans past just living off a tax base.
Sure.
He's got plans on reaching out to different organizations at the state level to try to help us in some areas. And when we talk about growth, there is, if you go to the south end of the county, everyone in Deweyville and Hartburg and Devil's Pocket, and all those areas, Gist, and all those areas. They're excited. They're proud of their new school system, and the school board and Superintendent Juan Addison. They've done a great job down there, and it's the focus point. It's the center point of Deweyville. Newton getting ready to build a new school, hopefully. Hey, that's going to bring people to Newton. There's going to be people that says, you know what? I want to go up there and live there. They got a new school. They got a great tradition. I want to be part of that. So I say that, it's not all gloom and doom.
Sure.
The lake has a lot of opportunities. Ronnie's keyed in on that. Us commissioners, we're going to, when January gets here, we're going to kind of go out and we're going to start doing our business in our precincts. We're going to leave our judge at that time, to when there's time to come together and talk about his ideals and his visions and what we're going to do. We're going to back him on those things, and I'm looking forward to that because he's got some great ideals. But one of the things that was asked up there, and I'll get to this point real quickly, was how do we heal our county? Because even tonight we said some things that's just downright hurtful, right? Sometimes the truth hurts, right?
Sometimes.
But you still got to hear it.
Yeah.
So what I think is going to happen in January in the Newton County Courthouse is there's going to be a man walks in that courthouse with the right spirit and the right heart and the right vision, and the healing is going to start within the center of that courthouse, and it's going to grow outward. It's going to go to precinct 2, 3, 1, and 4. We're going to heal from the courthouse outward. We're going to come together. We're going to work together. Precinct 2 Commissioner and I already have plans on sharing equipment. We're going to heal. We're going to work together. And I just don't want to leave here saying, it's all gloom and doom.
Sure.
It's not. We're going to do good things. Yes. But in the interim, what we've got to do is we got to stop the excessive spending.
Yeah.
We got to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
We need to stop that now. And how do you do that? So the way you do that is get on the phone, make the phone calls. I put a Facebook out there. I put Commissioner Precinct 4's phone number, Judge Weeks' phone number. Make the phone calls. Call and say, hey, let's stop. Let the new administration have a jab at this.
Yeah.
And as for me, I'm confident in my new judge. I look forward to being on his court and working with him. And man, I'm excited about going to work for the residents of Precinct 4. So
very cool. Very cool.
And with that, I'm excited about working for the people in Newton County. Bubba touched on the school bond issue. Mm-hmm. And that's when somebody drives into Newton, looking for a potential, hey, this may be a good area. It's the visuals that first catches their eye. Curb appeal. So you drive through town, and you look around, and then you keep on driving. We need to touch on the curb appeal, get Newton spiffed up a little bit. And I think a new school will go a long way toward that.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have to pay a little bit more school taxes. But that building is over 50 years old. I hate to date myself, but I went to high school.
That's an old building.
I hate to date myself, but I went to, this was late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for a new building. It's time, and like I told the superintendent, I really hope the bond issue passes. It's time to protect our students.
Yeah.
It's time for a new bond issue. For a new school.
Sure. So one of the things I want to make clear to kind of finish up here is, there's some people who have thrown out the accusation that we're all in cahoots, as in myself and Mr. Cochran.
Oh, really?
And now that you're sitting here, Mr. Powell, we're all in cahoots, and so
I haven't been offered even a drink of water since I got here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I went and looked in our pantry and I said, we don't even have water here. So anyway, I probably just misappropriated those funds and I didn't buy the water when I needed to. But no, the thing is, I just want to say this. I made a promise to Judge Weeks a number of months ago as it pertains to a lot of the financial issues that's going on in this community or in this county. And I told him, after having a conversation with him, that I would promise that I would contact all of the commissioners and make myself abundantly available to them. Now, abundantly available here lately has been kind of weird because I lost my grandmother and lost my father. So the last couple of weeks has been a little bit weird. But, you know, we're doing my dad's memorial this weekend and we're sitting down tonight trying to get this. So I'm available. Okay. So it's not because Jay hadn't been available. Jay's got 2 phones. Okay. And both of those phones are readily accessible. And I don't live too far from the courthouse on top of that. So I have made the phone calls. I want everybody out there in this county to know that I've made the phone calls. I've left the messages. I'm not going to beg for an interview. If a man wants to sit down and do an interview, we can do the interview. I'm not begging for one. To me, I look at it like this, you know. If it seems that there's darkness around and accountability is absent, sometimes people don't want to come and sit underneath that light bulb. And they don't want to have that conversation. And so, not saying I'm not throwing out any barbs here. All I'm saying is, I know this. Whenever my hand was in the cookie jar, I was kind of hoping they'd keep the light off. You know what I mean? And so, I would just encourage you out there, don't make assumptions because we're all sitting around my table tonight that we're all in cahoots. You guys, you know, we had talked a little bit, and but I have made this abundantly available. Matter of fact, I've made it again available to Judge Weeks. Because here's the thing, you know, maybe we're missing something. Maybe we need some more clarity on our end. But I just want to put that out there to everybody that I made myself available. I've made myself available to a number of people in county government and city government. And matter of fact, I'm going to be sitting down with the I think it's the city manager or the mayor, Donnie Meek. Manager, sitting down with the manager in the morning and having another interview much along the same basis. So, I mean, you know, we are getting a little bit of some feedback. I got a phone call, and I'm not going to throw out the name of the individual, but I got a phone call from an individual here in the county, and it's going to be a very interesting conversation because I don't think anybody's expecting this lift hook to come at all. And so I'm just throwing that out there to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is your county. Your county officials work for you. That's the point of this whole thing. They work on your behalf. So if they're working on your behalf, hallelujah. If they're not working on your behalf, and some of the conversation that we have got going here tonight has set a little fire underneath you, you've got to communicate with your county officials. Be at those meetings. Get involved. Get in front of their face and talk to them. Mr. Powell?
So one thing that I think we need to touch on before we get out of here, you asked the question earlier about what if this forensic audit uncovers some wrongdoing?
Sure.
So, you know, Judge-elect Cochran and I and some others have talked about what if that happens. And, you know, what we're determined to do is if there's something uncovered that's wrongdoing, then Judge-elect Cochran hands that off to the right people.
Sure.
But we don't focus on it.
Yes.
After January the 1st, we're going to be focused on Newton County going forward.
Yeah.
Not what the sins of the past. If there are things there that need to be managed, that's a whole different department. We're going to be going forward. We're going to be moving this county forward.
Yes. And as far as you're a stakeholder. You're a taxpayer of Newton County.
That's right.
You have absolutely every right to know what's going on with your tax money.
Yeah.
You know, and so
That's a great point.
to say that, you know, and everybody out there, you have an absolute right to know what's going on with your tax dollars.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want your voice to be heard, stand up. Come, like Jay said, come to the meetings. You know, contact your commissioners. Stay in touch. You know, all it takes is a little effort, and everybody will stay informed.
Have you, since our last interview, have you received any inquiries from any media?
No.
Zero. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, no, wait a minute. We will. There will be a media group at tomorrow's commissioners' court.
Which will be who?
It'll be Channel 12 News.
Okay. You know, well, that is, you know, they want to interview us tomorrow.
Okay.
But
Here's my point, ladies and gentlemen. If you appreciate the conversation we had tonight, all you have to do is go subscribe.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving. I'm here, and I'm available. And matter of fact, so if Danny Benson, if Philip White, if Mr. Fomby wants to contact me, and who else am I missing?
Gene Thompson.
Gene Thompson, and Judge Kenneth Weeks. If any of you guys want to contact me, hey, let's go ahead and pack a lunch, have a sit down, and go ahead and get a conversation in. Because if any of this has been misleading, misguiding, misdirecting, if any of this has been in error, then my hope is that one of those 5 people will get on the phone call with me, and let's have a sit down talk. There's no strings attached here. I didn't charge you guys to come and sit down and talk to me.
Didn't even give us water.
I didn't even give you water. You know what I'm saying? My wife's gonna beat me over that. But,
Now, hey, look, Channel 12 reached out to me
okay.
because of some feedback they were getting from residents of Precinct 4, and because I had spoke with those people months ago on a whole other issue. They knew me. They had my phone number.
Okay.
So when Judge-elect Cochran said they hadn't reached out to him, he was absolutely correct. They reached out to me, and I actually told him this afternoon, hey, they're going to be there tomorrow at the Commissioners Court meeting. They'd like to visit with you if you're available. So
Yeah, absolutely.
just-
my point is this: we've got some regional news media that hasn't even reached out.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is this: I'm not even, somebody accused me of being a horrible journalist. Yes, you're right, because I'm not a journalist. This is a conversation between a citizen and 2 men who have been elected to lead this community. And we're basically allowing people to peek in on this conversation and kind of let what y'all want to be said.
Yes.
Some people,
Everybody's welcome to state their opinions. And,
absolutely.
And that's what I like about America.
Yeah.
You could say, you could present the facts whether you like them or not.
Whether you like them or not. Gentlemen, I appreciate you both for having to sit down and talking with us. And do you have any contact information you want to put out there to the people?
I'll share mine.
Okay.
My phone number is 409-960-2940. I'm available 24/7. I think everybody in Precinct 4 knows that. But if anybody wants to talk about anything I've said here tonight, I'm certainly willing to talk about it. I haven't said anything that is not factual. So
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Powell.
And my phone number is 409-679-8834. I put it out there a lot, but hey, if anybody has any questions or any, and I've filled a lot of calls since the last interview, and I, probably will field a bunch from this one. So
Sure.
if anybody wants to contact me, that's my phone number. And
That sounds good. So for questions, comments, concerns, complaints, you got the numbers now. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you for listening to Not on the Payroll at notonthepayroll.com. You can check us out at Facebook, check us out at YouTube, check us out at Rumble. Look for the gorilla with the red headphones. If you get an opportunity, hit that share, subscribe, like button if you're on Facebook or whatever. Subscribe to YouTube and also click the bell because that'll notify you whenever we have an interview. That will notify you and let you know we've got new content up for you. What are we doing? We're doing this regionally, and we are doing this for you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
thank you.
thank you, Jay.
Yes, sir.